Hello and welcome to the Grueling Truth Radio Network and the Best Available Draft Podcast. I am your host, Matt Minnick. With me today is Patrick Henke of Bengals Wire, and we will be talking about Devin White of LSU. He is generally seen as the top linebacker in the NFL draft this year. I've seen him go as high as I think about fourth or so. Definitely been a top guy, pushing the top five. He was the guy who was mocked nonstop to the Bengals before the draft process really started because of an obvious need. He was being sent to the Bengals at 11. But there are some kind of mixed reviews on him. I think in general everybody likes him, but how much do you like him? How high is it? And also kind of looking at position value, where is it worth taking a linebacker? I myself am a big fan, but I think I might have a little bit of a bias on this. So I brought in Patrick to have somebody who sees him a little bit differently than I do, to be able to have a conversation and a back and forth a little bit and see if I can eliminate some of my own bias. I think the issue I'm having is that he plays my style of defense, and he plays linebacker exactly the way I want a Mike linebacker to play. And having coached and having recruited, that was the kind of guy I was looking for. Obviously, I never found that guy, potential top 10 pick guy. But just all the traits are there that is schematically what I want it to be. But obviously that's not every scheme in the NFL. So Patrick, we'll kind of go through it trait by trait here. So first of all, what do you think of his play strength, tackling ability, and ability to be physical and make plays both in the run, mostly in the run game, but in the pass as well.
So I think he's physical. I don't think that's an issue. When he makes contact, he makes good contact. But I think his tackling form is needs some work. I think he comes in high sometimes, and that causes some issues. I think, as far as the pass game goes, I think he's good in coverage. I don't think that's an issue. I think he could grow in that department, but it's not an issue of physicality for me. It's is he in the right position to make the tackle? I think he just comes in high too often, and he needs to work on that as far as technique goes. So
that's a big factor for me that I look at, where I kind of see that the opposite. And I take a little bit of heat for this sometimes, because I think we were all taught, we were all taught about leverage, and we were all taught about playing low. But tackling high can be a good thing. And to kind of counteract it and look at the other side of things, I think you look on offense and you talk about playing low as a running back, but there's guys like Adrian Peterson, who are tall guys that run upright, and people have trouble tackling them. I think high tackling, there's an advantage to it, in that you're bringing your body through, and you're keeping your eyes on the target. Too many people duck their heads down, and really all the emphasis on helmet to helmet. Yeah, no kidding. all the emphasis on helmet to helmet. It's worse when you're lowering your head, because you're putting not only your head but your neck into a bad situation. There's some incidental helmet to helmet stuff when players are upright, but that's not what you see flags on. I don't want to. I'm not a doctor, but that doesn't seem to be what we're seeing when we're seeing a lot of concussions are from those high hits, where they're really kind of hitting face mask to face mask and not even necessarily a direct hit. So I still think you can play with your head high and still bend your knees and be able to come through. I think there's an advantage to it too with kind of the direction that your body's going. That when you lower your head, and explode through. Even if you're using pretty, even if athletically you're able to explode through, you're kind of diving forward at somebody and you're hitting them head on. I mean, they're running full speed at you, you're running full speed at them. So the physics of it kind of balances itself out. Whereas coming in high and bringing your hips through and kind of rolling them up, since you're coming in from a different direction, it doesn't take as much off of your momentum coming in with that force. So I don't know. I personally see some good things to that, and that I think that when you dive, when you lower your head too much, people take their eyes off the ball and they miss tackles a lot. So that's my issue with that. Is I actually see it as a positive, where I think a lot of people see it as a negative.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think sometimes with Devin White, though, he's there to make the play, and then he just doesn't make it. Like I saw that a lot, and I don't know if that's because he's going in high or just something he needs to work on, as far as just somebody needs to drive it home that you need to finish the play. I'm not really sure, but it's something I noticed where he was there, he did everything right, like he's in a position to make the play, and then he just doesn't. So I noticed that quite a bit.
Yeah, and I've definitely seen, it doesn't do you much good to have your eyes up if you're still allowing the cutback, and I can definitely agree with you on that. That I've seen him miss some things and get juked a little bit, but yeah, I think overall, I like his tackling. I see it as a strength for him for the most part. And in terms of just toughness, block destruction. How do you feel about him getting off of blocks?
I think he's good. I think sometimes he tries to. I think he gets into trouble sometimes when he misreads his keys, and then by the time he realizes where the play is going, he's already swallowed up by the offensive lineman. But I think he does show a good ability to get off that block, although sometimes it's too late for him to get off the block, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I got you. And I think what you're – I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Sometimes he goes in and tries to make contact with his shoulder a little bit instead of facing the block and using technique to get it off. But all in all, I think he's good at getting off blocks.
Yeah, and I think you're kind of leading into very well his football intelligence. And how he's able to react and get to where he needs to be. Obviously as a Mike backer, you're playing sideline to sideline. You're going to be all over the field, and it's going to be even worse in the NFL when the play action pass and the passing threat is going to be more emphasized in the defense, and also it's going to be a bigger threat to you with the type of matchups you can get with backs from the backfield, tight ends, things like that. So.
Right.
How do you feel about him? And you've already kind of started it a little bit, but how do you feel about his football intelligence and ability to make his reads?
So that's actually my biggest concern with him. All the other stuff, I think he's solid, and I'm kind of splitting hairs when I criticize the other parts of his game. But that's actually my biggest concern, is I see a lot of times where he's delayed in his reaction. I don't know if he's thinking too much or whatever, but he misreads his keys, and he either gets swallowed up by the linebacker or the play's already 10 yards downfield by the time he realizes what's happening. I see that a lot. And that's my biggest concern, is he gets tricked a lot with the play action and read option stuff. And that stuff, I guess, can be coached. And it can be developed in time, the more experience, because he was a running back in high school, so he hasn't been playing the position for very long. But so I guess it can be learned, but that's my biggest concern. And if you're going to take a guy like that with the 11th pick at the linebacker position, at the off-ball linebacker position, I almost want him to be a near perfect prospect, and I think that's a big flaw in his game.
Yeah, that's true. I think from when we're talking about draft position, as far as what is the value of a player at this position, positional value. I mean, 11 is pretty high for a linebacker. So you're definitely, you're taking that guy. You definitely are getting him on the field right away.
And that's the thing. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and that's the thing. It's like I think people want him to be Roquan Smith or Reuben Foster, and obviously Reuben Foster slipped for other reasons, but he was when I watched him when he was at Alabama, I was like, this guy's a top 10 pick as far as player goes. And I don't think Devin White is quite at that level. And I don't want people to think I don't like him, because I think he is a first-round pick, but I would put him more in the 20 to 30 range just because of positional value, like you said. And I just don't think he's that. I think he's a good prospect, and he could have a very long career with a ton of Pro Bowls. I don't think he's as sure of a thing as everyone's making him out to be, to take him at the 11th pick. I think he falls more in the 20 to 30 range for me.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you get a little hungry when it's the best one available, and we see that frequently at the quarterback position. And this year we're gonna with the weak quarterback class. I quote that a little bit, but we're gonna see people fall in love with somebody that's not very good. So I think that definitely happens with every position. And if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers picking at the top of the draft, and you need help on defense, maybe you're falling for that guy because because it's a need, because you're trying to fill that need.
Right. And I think that gets teams into trouble, though. In my opinion, I think you should always draft best player available, or whatever pick has the most value. So for the Bengals,
and the needy teams are going to be up there,
Yeah. So and that's, if you look at the Bengals, in my opinion, their more successful drafts, they weren't paying any attention to what they needed, because for a while there they really didn't have many needs. But but they were taking, they took Tyler Eifert when they still had Jermaine Gresham on the roster. It's like, if Eifert didn't have all his injuries, that would have been a home run pick. And I just think, as far as, and you got to look at positional value too. I'm not taking a running back top 10. And I think linebacker is valuable, because we saw what happened when we didn't have any linebackers. What's happened the last 5 years. But I think you can find similar value in later rounds, I guess, at that position. Whereas the offensive tackle, you might need. If you want a star franchise left tackle, I think you need to get that guy in the top 15 more often than not.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I think it's an interesting contrast, though, because, you look in this draft, there's 4 or 5 tackles that are pretty good. And then there's a couple of guys who could be steals in the second round. Could be that Braden Smith guy that surprises us. Right away as a rookie. At the linebacker position, we could see the top 3 guys who are, really the only 3 that are being seriously, considered as plug and play type guys.
That is concerning.
We could see them go. I mean, and maybe not all 3 in the first round, but all 3 in the top 40. That's definitely something that's believable.
I wonder if that philosophy changes. For like the Bengals have their glaring needs are on the offensive line and linebacker, but they have other needs. I mean, they have needs across the board, not as glaring, but they have other needs. So I wonder if they were a Super Bowl contender for next year, and they just needed a linebacker, then maybe pull the trigger at 11 there, even if it might be a little bit of a reach. But with them needing so many different positions and likely being at least a couple years away from seriously contending for anything, I think they need to throw away the needs and just take the best player on their board, whatever presents the most value there.
Yeah, and I think you look at it that way. you've got to be taking that need and reaching for players is gonna hurt you in the long run. And
right.
if you're that close to the Super Bowl, you probably wouldn't be picking there. But that comes down to it, and we've seen the Bengals and the Packers are teams that have kind of gone to the philosophy of we need to draft really well, we need to keep our own players, and both have obviously had their struggles. The Bengals over the last few years have had a major downfall as a result of not being able to keep those players.
Right. Well, the issue with that philosophy, it works really well when you draft really well, but when that's what you do, all it takes is one or two bad drafts, and it sets you back, which is what happened with the Bengals from 2015.
Absolutely. And really, I mean, I think it's two things. I think that definitely destroyed their depth. Having some bad drafts in there. But even so, if they could have maintained, if they don't lose half their offensive line and 2/3 of their top receivers in single off seasons, maybe you're able to hold that.
Part of that philosophy is keep your guys in house, and they lost a lot of their guys that year. And
so I mean, if you're not going to invest out, you got to invest in. But I think that when you look at that overall, if you're going to draft the best available player, you've got to be filling needs in free agency. You've got to be going out there and doing it. So, that's those philosophies work hand in hand, and you can do that with different positions in different ways. And I think this season is going to be a pretty rich looking off season for wide receivers, free agent class. I mean, like that's a position you can kind of wait on. But like the linebacker class this year isn't the same thing. So with a limited number of linebackers that can come in and play, and with a limited number of people available in free agency, Mosley being the only real top guy, but there's a couple of other guys. And I'm sure Mosley, as a result, price tag is going to be absurd.
I don't see the Bengals paying just based on their philosophy with the linebacker position and just in free agency in general. I don't see them paying top dollar for a linebacker.
Absolutely. So, but it kind of, and again, there's a philosophical, and this conversation has digressed into philosophy about team management, but that's the whole thing too. You've got to be willing to make investments, and if you're not willing to invest in that player in terms of financial capital, you're going to have to invest in terms of draft capital, which, like you said, we know what C.J. Mosley is. So you can invest millions of dollars in him, put together a smart contract that doesn't kill you at the tail end if he tapers off as he gets older, and do that, but you can't really do that sort of thing in the draft. The contracts are going to be limited. You're going to be able to get out of it after 4 years if you want, but you don't know what that player is, and you're limited by what's there, which is really just a handful of guys this year.
That's the tough part. I think the dilemma the Bengals would be at if it comes to the 11th pick, and you have Devin White there, you have, let's say, either Jonah Williams or Jawan Taylor, the offensive tackles, or even someone like Ed Oliver. Do you go? Do we want to risk maybe Devin Bush being there in the second round, or do we pull the trigger on Devin White here because we badly need linebackers? So that's going to be the dilemma, I think.
And you did it to yourself. You did it to yourself by never putting yourself in a good situation and going out there and getting a guy. And really, for that team in particular, you're getting sick of these, stopgap guys they're bringing in every year. I think Preston Brown was the best of them. Before that, it was Minter. It was Carlos Dansby, who was a phenomenal college player back when I was in college. Who wasn't, the guy's not the same anymore. They bring in all those aging guys.
AJ Hawk,
Yep, exactly. So, you want to see an end to it, but it's got to be the right end. They got to go about it the right way. So,
I am curious what they do if they try to bring Preston Brown back, because I think he played hurt most of the year. So I'm not even sure we really saw the real Preston Brown. But even so, I don't think Preston Brown is. I think he fits more into that, like. I'm not saying he's Ray Maluga, but more into that mold where he's this run-stopping, like thumper linebacker, but kind of a liability in coverage, which
you would hope that they'd be getting away from that guy
right.
with the new staff. You'd hope that they'd modernize that approach a little bit there.
I think Marvin Lewis was in maybe Duke Tobin's ear saying this is the kind of linebacker we need, and the game has just passed that guy up. So.
And probably working with the defense a little bit more at the end of the year, maybe you realize, oh man, things have changed in 17 years since I ran a defense myself. So.
Right.
But it's definitely a philosophical approach. So it'll be interesting because I can definitely see, and not just the Bengals, I can see the Bucs or somebody else who is needy at that position taking a swing because they don't think they're going to get a guy in the second round. I mean, the Bucs are a similar thing where they've got a lot of need on defense as well. They're not going to take a Greedy Williams right there. Probably looking D-line, maybe Devin White. With all the depth at D-line and a really good D-line class, they might be thinking, we're going to get a guy in round 2 at that spot, but maybe we're not going to get a quality guy in the second round at the linebacker position. I mean, it kind of depends on how they grade things out, too. If you like all three of those guys, top of the second round, you could probably get one of them.
See, that's kind of
maybe you only like a couple.
I don't think that Devin White and Devin Bush are drastically – I don't think there's a huge disparity between the two as prospects. I think Devin White has better – I think he's more upside. He's physically – he's more – I mean, Devin Bush is a little small. But I would not be – I just don't think they're that different of prospects where Devin White absolutely belongs in the top 15, but Devin Bush doesn't. I think they both kind of fall in the 20 to 35 range personally, but
we'll see how things turn out this week. But White, and I'm talking about the combine, which some of you may have seen by the time you hear this, but Devin White was about 6'2", 260, so he was quite a bit bigger than the next two guys we'd be talking about. Bush is right about 6 foot as well, maybe a hair under, and 230, 235. Mac Wilson, right about the same height, or excuse me, a little bit taller, like 6'2", but also about 235. So those guys, not quite as beefy. What are you looking for in the NFL these days now, though? So that athletic ability could pay out.
And I do think Devin White he's a really good athlete, and I actually think he's pretty good in coverage too, which is, that's something I've been waiting for a Bengals linebacker my whole life, I feel like. So I also think Devin Bush is good in coverage. So if that's the big thing that I'm looking for is give me somebody that can cover a tight end up the middle of the field, and both those guys can do it. But
and both are going to be both are going to have some size limitations with that, but so is everybody else in the world when you're trying to cover a tight end that's 6'6".
Right. That's why tight end.
I think
it's a mismatch for you.
We look over on the pass game. I think White, the play action, it hurts him quite a bit. I think part of that is defensive emphasis, and I think it can be you're changing his reads, so it certainly can be coached. He's just got to see things differently. It's not like a technique thing that would be so ingrained.
Right.
Because obviously that happens all the time where people change systems. I think actually Mack Wilson is my favorite linebacker in coverage, though. That guy's always making plays on the ball. He's a little bit taller, too, so, in terms of being able to cover tight ends, he's got a little bit of advantage there, a couple inches on those other guys.
Right. Well, then maybe, ideally, do you think Mack Wilson will be there in the second round? I mean, if you can get
that's the problem.
you don't know. I know. The draft is very unpredictable.
Absolutely. And I think, that's the other thing, too, is if you're going to do that, assuming you're a team like the Bengals, and this is not a Bengals podcast, but all my friends are Bengals guys, and so am I, so this is what happens. Especially when we're talking about a guy that's been mocked to the Bengals since October. But, we got to assume they're not going to do anything in free agency. So, if you pull the trigger on an offensive tackle in round one, you've got to be sitting by the phone, ready to make a move and have your finger on the pulse of what other teams are looking at linebacker. And if you're getting into round two, and let's say Bush and White have gone in the first round, you got to be making a call and getting one of the top picks to get Mack Wilson. In my opinion, because that's the last of the guys that seem to be pretty clearly plug and play type guys. I like Jermaine Platt from NC State quite a bit myself too.
Yeah, I've watched him a little bit. I like him.
And he's got a little bit more of the size. He does some things that really impress me. But I mean, if that's what you're looking at, it comes down to your board and how many guys you like on your board. And if you have a need and you decided you're going to fill it in the draft, you got to be ready to make a move, when it's crunch time for that need. Right.
Yep.
Otherwise, we're rolling out there with Kevin Minter. You know what I mean?
Yep. We can't. Well, they need. Obviously, they need to add. They need to add something at the position, or they're going to be the worst defense in the NFL again. So.
Absolutely.
And that's where. And again, I like Devin White. I think he's good. I guess I have concerns about the value there in terms of the Bengals. I know you said this isn't a Bengals podcast. But But that's how I'm viewing him is he worth the 11th pick in the draft? Because that's where my focus is on what the Bengals are doing.
No, absolutely. And looking at that, in that way, and I think we kind of talked about the traits. We talked about the pass defense. I think in run defense, if he makes his reads, I think he can be really good. He misses a tackle here and there, but I like him a lot as a tackler.
I think he's explosive.
I think I think he can be a stud in that position.
He's explosive as long as as long as he makes his read, then he's physically and as far as explosion, like getting in the gap, then he's elite, I think. But it's just for me too many times where he doesn't read his keys right, and he ends up 7 yards downfield getting washed away by the offensive guard or something. So.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think you're at the 11th pick. You're borderline on saying a guy's going to be elite. For what the position value is, so we're comparing it to LeVar Arrington going number 2. That's the kind of guy I think you're looking for in today's NFL around that pick. Where when Arrington went, linebackers could be taken that high. You're not gonna see that often here unless you've got the you've got an incredible generational guy and everybody knows that's the guy. Like we saw at the guard position last year. You're not going to see that happen. So, so overall, I think we're I don't think we're too far off in it. I think that if Devin White isn't an option for the Bengals at 11, meaning he's off the board, I think somebody made a mistake. Because I I think that's right about the time to me. I think he's a middle of the first round guy. So you take him at 11, and it's maybe a touch of a reach, but I can buy it and I can get on board with it. I think going higher than that's pretty ridiculous, though.
That's fair, and I guess you'd have to, for me to be okay with that pick, it would require Jawan Taylor, Jonah Williams, and Ed Oliver being off the board already. Because if they take Devin White, I'll say, okay, we just got a good linebacker. I won't be upset about it, but I'll question the decision if they pass up on one of these offensive tackles, or if for some reason Ed Oliver drops. That's when I might take issue with it, if they take him there. But if all those guys are gone and they feel that strongly about him, then take him. I mean, it's a big position of need, and I think his upside is big. He just needs a little more development in his ability to kind of process what the offense is doing. But that's kind of where I'm at on him.
Yeah, and I think a lot, like we talk about, it depends on how you look at the linebacker class, how you look at those three. I think you can say the same thing about the offensive tackle class. Jonah Williams was the guy a few weeks ago, and now we're all talking about Jawan Taylor.
It's very
we got a little bit of Cody Ford, but between Jonah and Ford, it's going to be big to see what their length is and how much that affects things moving forward.
I did see. I think Jonah Williams' arms came in at 33 inches today, which is I think it's a good number for a tackle. So.
Okay. All right. So that one came out right. I mean, that was a big drop off with Connor Williams last year coming in. Or can he play the tackle position? And then he even struggled to guard in Dallas. So that ended up being. I'm not always a huge fan of those things dropping off that much, but that ended up being a good one there. Of course, he had Paul Alexander coaching him too, but.
I think Paul Alexander gets a tough rap. I think he did a lot of. I mean, Bengals had some good offensive lines throughout the years.
Absolutely.
The end was tough, but
he's a very good zone coach, and I think they kind of screwed him with all of the counter, with the heavy counter they were running towards the end of his time here, because I don't think he's very good at it. And I don't think they were very good at it, and I don't know why they were running that stuff.
I get it.
But
especially when it's like 4th and 1 and they run it.
And it's all just about philosophy and what you're good at and who you have. But he's a very respected outside zone, inside zone offensive line coach, and you kind of were using him wrong there, and some things fell off, obviously, but and they fell off in Dallas as well. But
they obviously saw something they weren't feeling either. So,
but so overall, I mean, we'll see. They'll be big for the linebackers too. We'll see some things change, but I think at that tackle position, there are some guys, and maybe there's a guy you think you can get a steal on in the second round. Maybe you feel pretty strongly about Jake Fisher, and you think his health's going to be fine. I'm fine with they take it. You got to take a guy that's going to be an instant contributor, and if that's a tackle, if that's a linebacker, I'm good with it. If that's Ed Oliver, he better be very, very good, because I don't know how he fits there. With Geno on a new contract and everything, and Glasgow coming back healthy. And I'm not saying he's not better than Glasgow. I'm just saying, I don't know where he's going to fit with this defense.
I would say we'll make it work because he's a talent. So that's what.
I mean, that's the kind of guy you do that with. Right. And I was on board with Jonathan Allen a couple years ago.
I was ready. That was the pick I wanted. When John came out, I started jumping up and down, and then I finished with John Ross, which I like John Ross, but I think he definitely has a breakout year. But I was ready.
And hopefully it's in Cincinnati, based on what we're hearing right now. But
they were.
I don't know why they would. The value's
not
there.
That not being true, so I don't think that's happening.
Yeah. But yeah. So I think a lot of things depend on that stuff and how things break down with that. But linebacker would be really interesting because of it being scarce. The needy teams are gonna do something crazy, and you always hope that your team isn't the one that does something stupid because they're desperate. So
yeah, and I guess that factors into with how few of them there are. Even I'm not sure if Devin White or Devin Bush makes it out of the first round.
Absolutely. I mean, and I could see all three going. I've seen people mock Mac in the first round as well. So. I mean, who knows? Teams get needy, teams get crazy. Let's get crazy. We'll see what happens.
Yep.
So, but all right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. Do you have anything else we missed out on? Any other takeaways about Devin White?
No, kind of where I stand is I think he's good, and I think he's the best linebacker in the class. A little bit in front of Devin Bush, and I would put him more in the 20 to 30 range, but obviously a lot of people have him as top 10 picks, so, he's got the upside. I think he has that upside of being a Pro Bowl player. It's just a matter of fixing a few things. And I think the fact that he was a running back in high school is actually pretty big as far as he might still need more time to develop at the position. I think that's a positive for him there. But so I like him overall, just not sure I like him at the 11th pick. That's kind of where I'm at. All
right, and I think it's fringe. I think it's I think it's a tough one, but I could definitely see it working. He's got a lot of things I like. Like I said, I'm trying to remove my own bias a little bit from it, from the fact that he is kind of the archetype of what I like at that position. It's got to be a fit though. It's got to be right for the defense he's looking at, and when we talk about the Bengals, who knows what that defense is going to be. So
right, we have no idea yet. So I think we have a general idea, I guess, but not until we see it in action. I guess we won't know for sure. But
yeah, unfortunately, the Giants coach that I wanted is in Kansas City now, so we're gonna have to move on.
Well, we'll see. Hopefully, it was an Eberflus situation, and he ends up good.
I got you. Well, let's. We'll wrap it up now. Thank you again, my guest Patrick Henke from Bengals Wire. Where can people find your work?
You just go to BengalsWire.com. You can follow me on Twitter. It's at Henke_Patrick, or just look up Patrick Henke. And you will. I usually post the stuff I write. I just wrote a piece on all the needs the Bengals have going into the draft, so that should be posting soon here.
That should be long.
So. It is long. It is. They have needs everywhere.
I figured. All right. Well, thank you again for joining me, and I'm Matt Minnick. You can find me on Twitter at Coach Minnick, and you can find my work largely at Cincy Jungle and also here on The Grueling Truth. So keep tuned in. We'll be back throughout draft season with more content leading up to our live show on night 1 of the NFL Draft. Thank you once again, and keep on looking back.